الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وحشر لسليمان جنوده من الجن والإنس والطير فهم يوزعون حتى إذا أتوا على واد النمل قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون فتبسم ضاحكا من قولها وقال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأدخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين وتفقد الطير فقال ما لي لا أرى الهدهد أم كان من الغائبين لأعذبنه عذابا شديدا أو لأذبحنه أو ليأتيني بسلطان مبين. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. فمكث غير بعيد فقال أحطت بما لم تحط به وجئتك من سبأ بنبأ يقين إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم وأوتيت من كل شيء ولها عرش عظيم وجدتها وقومها يسجدون للشمس من دون الله وزين لهم الشيطان
So, inshallah, they will recite first, and then I believe all three of you prepared something to talk about your journey. So we'll start from my right here.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن كادوا ليستفزونك من الأرض ليخرجوك منها وإذا لا يلبثون خلافك إلا قليلا سنة من قد أرسلنا قبلك من رسلنا ولا تجد لسنتنا تحويلا أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا صدق الله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum, and my name is Jinan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي أخرج الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب من ديارهم لأول الحشر ما ظننتم أن يخرجوا وظنوا أنهم مانعتهم حصونهم من الله فأتاهم الله من حيث لم يحتسبوا وقذف في قلوبهم الرعب يخربون بيوتهم بأيديهم وأيدي المؤمنين فاعتبروا يا أولي الأبصار ولولا أن كتب عليهم الجلاء لعذبهم في الدنيا ولهم في الآخرة عذاب النار ذلك بأنهم شاقوا الله ورسوله ومن يشاق الله فإن الله شديد العقاب ما قطعتم من لينة أو تركتموها قائمة على أصولها فبإذن الله وليخزي الفاسقين. وما أفاء الله على رسوله منهم فما أوجفتم عليه من خيل ولا ركاب ولكن الله يسلط رسله على من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتحوا واتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب. للفقراء المهاجرين الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم وأموالهم يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا وينصرون الله ورسوله أولئك هم الصادقون. نفسه فأولئك هم المفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم. My name is Raahima. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. صدق الله العظيم.
Takbir. 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 So I believe all three of you prepared a speech, inshallah. So, Hafiza Isra. Yes, mashallah. This is Hafiza Isra, 13 years old? 14 years old. MashaAllah. May Allah bless your parents and reward them, inshallah.
My name is Isra, and I recite Surah Isra from ayah 76 to 82. I chose those ayahs because they're one of my favorite, because they talk about two important things. How Qur'an after Fajr is the most blessed and witnessed, and I feel like this relates to me a lot because when I used to memorize Qur'an, I used to recite after Fajr a lot, and I felt like that was my strongest memorization, and that used to stick with me, and that can relate to a lot of people who's also memorizing Qur'an. And second, the ayah talks about how Qur'an is a healer in every aspect, like physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm going to talk about my journey, so I'd like to start with a quote. It goes, "A dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action becomes reality." So this relates to me as well, because before I was even born, my parents had the dream of making their child a Hafiza or Hafiz. And when I was 4, they enrolled me into Radiant Hearts Academy, and I stayed there for a couple of years, and then my teacher recommended I go up to Hifz. And a big part of what helped me achieve my goal was the community I was surrounded by. So all the teachers encouraged and helped and motivated me, and I've been through a lot of teachers, and I feel like the one that impacted me the most was Sheikh Ahmed Ashur, and he taught actually all 3 of us. And alhamdulillah, after 2 years and 9 months of Hifz, I finished on the first day of Ramadan in 2016. And within a month or so, I enrolled in public school in 7th grade. And I finished middle school, and I recently admitted to Thomas Jefferson High School for STEM. And so I'm currently in 9th grade, and I just started, and inshallah, let's see where it leads me. And a common misconception a lot of people have about Quran memorization is that it makes kids fall behind on academics. But with hard work and persistence and determination, you can be wherever you want to be. And so, and not only that, but after 604 pages of memorization of Allah's words, Allah opens your heart to not only His book, but also to secular subjects. And for brothers and sisters memorizing, I'd like to know a few things that help me achieve my goal. And one, planning it out actually helps a lot. Like, it seems like a monumental goal. It seems monumental, but with a goal, it doesn't seem as much. So I broke it up into calendars, and I set specific surahs and ayahs per day, and that actually helps keep me motivated not to fall behind. And my goal was to finish by age 11, and mashallah, I was able to do that with the calendar. That helped me a lot. Second, this is very cliche, but dua, you can't achieve anything without dua. And I make dua for strong tajweed and review, and to make the process easy, like the memorization process easy for me. And lastly, the companions you keep actually impacts you a lot. Like, all three of us started in RHA around the same time, and either we came out as hafizas and finished or are almost done. And the friendships you make through Qur'an, the friendships you make in the process is special because you bonded through Qur'an and not in any other way. And there are always dips and peaks in the process. But during the dips, your companions are the ones who are there to encourage you and keep you motivated to not stop. And during the peaks, those companions are the ones who will keep you there to keep you humble. And even to this day, the friendships I made are still growing and still there. And inshallah, with the help of Allah and teachers and persistence, this is the path I followed to achieve my goal, and inshallah, this will achieve the goal of anyone else who is memorizing as well. Thank you.
Takbir. 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 By the way, it is not cliche to say dua is powerful, because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said dua is a weapon of the believer. A weapon. The dua is so powerful. So it's definitely not cliche. And also, she mentioned your companions. Another hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ said, you are the deen of your companions. You are the religion of your companions. Meaning, the people who you hang out with will determine what you believe in, what your goals are, what your beliefs are, etc. So, Jazakumullah khair, Hafiza Isra. I wish my daughter was here, but she's 2, so she has a long way to go. Next is Sister Jinan. Sorry, I forgot your names. And you're 13? 13 years old, Sister Jinan.
My name is Jinan and I recited Surah Hashr, Ayah 1 to 9. The surah that I just recited had once been one of my most difficult surahs when I first started my journey almost 5 years ago. Alhamdulillah, now I was able to recite it to you all tonight. For the first 2 years of my hifz, I reviewed and recited to the sheikhs and teachers at Hafiza Qur'an program at Adams Main Center. But unlike most of my classmates, I was pulled from the program to continue my memorization at home with my brother and my online Skype teacher. Even if I wasn't in a program unlike most of my classmates, I still found it easier to do it at home. I was able to do it at my own pace without stressing of keeping up with others. I was also able to memorize more because I had more time. And in result, I was able to complete more juz at a faster time. Everyone prefers different environments, and that is okay. Doing my memorization at home let me find and focus on the joy of memorizing Quran and reading Allah's words. Needless to say, as my mom always tells me, anyone can memorize Allah's book as long as they put their heart to it. Like all other blessed students of the Quran, I had my share of difficulties. I would always worry what others may think of me as I did my memorization. So I found a hadith that helps me to this day and will help anyone else who finds the same problem that I do. Regardless of what people may think, remember the only one you must please is Allah. This hadith helps me to keep striving towards the finish line. And alhamdulillah, not only does this inspire me, but I also look up to the wonderful hafizas such as Hafiza Raahima and Hafiza Isra. They will help me and continue to be my role models till the very end.
Takbir. 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 And last, Hafiza Raahima, daughter of brother Saqib, by the way. But mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Raahima and I completed memorizing when I was 12 years old. I started my hifz in 3rd grade at the Hafiza Qur'an program and I finished it 3.5 years later when I was in 6th grade. I did my hifz alongside very limited homeschooling, just English and math, that I used to study over the weekends with the help of my amazing homeschooling teacher, Jinan's mom, Sister Naheed. After I completed memorizing at the Hafiz, I went to Al-Fatih Academy for 7th and 8th grade. It took a little bit of adjustment, but alhamdulillah, I was able to catch up with all subjects smoothly. I am currently attending public school for the first time, and I am a freshman at Dominion High School. Throughout my hifz journey, there were lots of ups and downs, but the key to my success was lots of dua, alongside a very consistent routine. Whether we were at home or traveling, even when we were in Disneyland, we never spent a day without completing my daily recitation goals, either with my teachers or with my parents. My advice for parents is that hifz of a single child requires a commitment from the entire family. In a hifz household, there must be a strong emphasis on salah, honesty, truthfulness, respectfulness, and most importantly, eating halal. It's a complete package, you know? For the past 3 weeks, I've been hearing questions from you all about video games, TV, etc. Yes, these do affect a child's hifz. But my experience on this is that parents cannot control this unless they build a strong relationship with their children. Only then will they be able to influence them to make the right choices in terms of what kind of games they're playing, what type of TV they're watching, and what type of friends they're making. One additional thing that my parents did was they attached my brother and I to the masjid from a very young age. I can safely say that it was the Tarawih at MCCL that first put the love of the Quran in my heart. For the children, my advice is, anyone can start hifz at any stage of their life. Even if you don't memorize the entire Quran, do as much as you can. For whatever you learn will help you improve your salah, teach others, and most importantly, bring you closer to Allah. Memorizing the Quran is a commitment that will last your entire life. Hifz does not end even when you become a hafiz. Rather, that is only the beginning. You have to continue reviewing every day for your entire life, otherwise you will forget. Most importantly, you have to understand the Quran and implement it in your life. My next step, inshallah, is to learn Arabic so I can understand the Quran too. Thank you so much.
Takbir. 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 I didn't forget you, brother Taha. Talk about it. Yeah, you found something, right? Your brother Taha is 11 years old and he's studying to be a Hafiz, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Taha. I'm 11 years old. I started memorizing hifz about 3 years ago. Like every kid, I had ups and downs. And a few months ago, I was memorizing about 15 to 10 lines. But then that was affecting my health, so my parents told my teachers to, and then they reduced it significantly, and my whole entire workload, not just my new. And alhamdulillah, that's helping me a lot. And MCCL has really helped me. Brother Wasir is always encouraging me to do much better things. Brother Amir always gives a lot of good speeches. Brother Jaz always gives great khantas. And the Tarawih is amazing, and the Imams who lead it always have great voices, and they always give me great advice. Like most kids, I like playing sports. So my favorite is cricket and soccer. In my free time, I like to play outside with my neighbors. But one thing I don't do like most kids is play video games. And I'm still a happy kid. And my advice for the parents is know that every child is different, and some children will do it different. Some children will do it fast, some children will do it slow. And My advice to the children is never give up, even if you feel like it, and always have good companions. And yeah.
Takbir. 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 Okay, so now we've heard from them. Now I'm going to open up for question and answer, inshallah. So my first question is, who is your favorite reciter?
Sheikh Mashari al-Fasi, Sheikh Mahir al-Maqaydi, and Sheikh Hosri. Sheikh Hosri has great tajweed, and the other two, they have great recitation.
Sorry, I broke the microphone.
Mahir Waikli. My favorite is Nishari Rashid al-Fasi because ever since I was 3, I would hear my brother playing Surah Naba on his voice, and ever since that, I would love to hear his recitation.
My favorite reciter is also Mashari Rashid al-Fasi because he just has a beautiful voice and I love listening to him.
Does anyone have questions? By the way, this is the 4th Night of Qur'an program. Does anyone know the most popular qari amongst all the students? Yes, Brother Sabri got it. Al-Afasi. MashaAllah. Anyone have any questions? Nobody has any questions? This is the first night we have girls. Do you know anyone here have daughters, nieces, grandkids, granddaughters? Oh, we have a question right here.
Like, what's a way to memorize faster?
MashaAllah.
To memorize faster.
The question is, what are some of the ways to memorize faster? Okay. Does anybody want to free fall? Raise your hand.
Personally, I don't think memorizing faster is a real goal. It's memorizing it strong. But to memorize it faster, start slow. So like start at 4 lines or like whatever you feel comfortable, and then slowly move up like half a line even if it needs to be, or like a line, and then make sure that you can do those 4 lines or like those 5 lines, and then slowly move up. Don't just increase it in one day.
What I would do is I would be stuck, if whatever ayah I'm stuck on, I would break that ayah into pieces and memorize those pieces, and then I would tie them all together, and that would make my memorization go smoother and faster.
Similar to what Isra said, make sure you're not doing too much. So let's say you're doing 10 lines and you think that's too much for you. Just do 4 or 5. And listening also really helps. Try listening to the ayah a few times before you start memorizing it.
Yeah, adding on to that, breaking it up helps too. Like if you're trying to do 10 lines, you can break it up, like do like 2 lines an hour and then like stop and then do like take a break or something, or do like review and then come back to it.
Anybody else? Questions? No questions. Wow. It's a Friday night, and this is Monday morning crowd right here.
There's not a question, but I'm so proud for all of it.
Brother Abdul Basir, president of MCCL, says he's very proud of you guys, inshallah. I'm inspired too, subhanAllah. Like, it's amazing the sacrifice and time and effort to memorize the Qur'an. It's not easy, but it's not hard. It takes time and dedication. You can't just memorize the Qur'an in a week or a month. It takes time, and you have to keep it up. So for these sisters, for the parents of these girls to do this, and the boys too as well, but it's just amazing. That's why the reward is so great. The hadith Brother Ijaz narrated a few nights ago, the second night or first night, is they'll take some people with them to Jannah. That's an amazing reward. Their parents will have a crown. So I have a question. Now that you, for the 2 Hafiza here, now that you've completed the Quran and now you're going to study I believe you went to Dominion High School, you're going to Thomas Jefferson. By the way, Thomas Jefferson is one of the STEM schools for technology and science. I know where I work, my company tries to hire people who graduate from the school because the school is really good, mashallah. But how is that transition in terms of upkeeping and with your Quran and also keeping up with your studies?
It's definitely a real challenge to balance studying and reading Quran, but taking advantage of weekends and long breaks like this, or just any days off, and just taking advantage of that. And because most kids, what they'll do, during those days they'll try to get ahead, but instead of doing that, and kids also have extracurricular activities. Like a lot of my friends, they'll do like skating and stuff, but in that time, instead of doing a sport, I can take that time to review and do something that's important to me, like Quran or translations.
One thing that's really important when I went to Al-Fatih after I finished my hifz, right? Just like you have a time to, let's say you have like a break time where you play video games every day, you have a set dinner time, you have a set time to do reading or whatever, right? You need to have a set time where you just spend on Quran. So for example, for me, I get home around like 4 or 5, right? And then every day at 7:30 to 8, that's my set time to do Quran. The rest of the time I'll spend studying. So it's really important to have like a set time for Quran, just like you have a set time for everything else in life.
Brother Haidar.
Yes, I heard if mashallah they complete the Quran, what the plan to learn Arabic, and if you start learning Arabic, what the challenge now for you?
So the question is, now that you've memorized the Quran, are you learning Arabic, and what is the challenges in learning the language of Arabic to understand the Quran?
Absolutely, to understand the Quran.
To understand the Quran.
So in Al-Fatih, actually, they taught you Arabic as one of your main classes of the day. So I was taking Arabic in Al-Fatih, and I plan to start it again, inshallah. One challenge is that, I don't know, for me, learning languages are a little tough, but that's basically it, yeah. You know, the more you struggle, the more rewards you get, so.
Memorizing 604 pages already builds that stamina, I feel, to be able to memorize another language or learn another language. Like for me, even though I'm taking like a foreign language in school, I feel like I can grasp words and memorize them faster than other kids can. And like the vocab, it's much easier for me to stick with the vocab than other kids because you already built that like potential that you can do that. So I think if you start memorizing Arabic, I think it's possible to be able to understand it. So that helps.
Is that missing the Arabic environment that you have to be around people who speaking? I mean, that help you more. I mean, just that's one of the challenge for besides the language, because you know, guys, like the most. I mean, all the world, all the vocabulary. You know what I mean? It's just the meaning.
So Brother Haidar is asking, like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking, is there a challenge that you're not in the environment of speaking Arabic that it makes it harder to learn? Like,
yeah, because we have the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
Most the kids, I mean,
yeah.
when they come from the Arab parents, you know, they speak English.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, all the environment in English around you. That
I feel like you're talking to your kids.
yeah.
So is like the environment of learning Arabic and being around Arabic speakers, does that help? Is that a challenge that you're not able to have that? Because now you're no longer in the Islamic school, you're in the public secular school. So does that affect you?
Yes, last year when I was in Al-Fatih, you know, we had a lot of Arab-speaking teachers, there were a lot of Arab-speaking kids. There was a lot more Arabic and I was able to catch on. This year, I am struggling a little bit, especially there's an institute called Fawakih, and I used to go there last year alongside Al-Fatih. But unfortunately, their programs are discontinued, and that's also a major struggle. Yeah.
You answered his question. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, wait. Oh, mashallah. Okay. It's now here. Brother here first.
So what kind of techniques do you use to memorize? And you know, especially there are some ayahs that are very similar. So how do you distinguish between them? Like what kind of techniques do you visualize, or how do you?
Okay.
So the question is, what are the techniques and you guys use to memorize the Quran?
One thing that helped me is staying consistent. So I had this thing where every single ayah I used to, so first I used to listen to it from a sheikh, like on a website, I used to listen to the ayah until I could say it, until I could remember parts of it, and then I used to say the ayah 11 times. And I used to see if I could get it, but my number, I don't know why, I always picked 11, so I used to read the ayah 11 times, and then I used to see how much I got out of it. And if it was a long ayah, I always had to break it up into pieces, and I'd do the first part, say it 11 times, and if I got it, I'd move on to the second part, and then connect first part and second part, and move on to do the whole ayah. The second part of your question with the
similar
concepts, if you read the surah enough times, you'll be able to connect the last ayah to this next ayah without having to hesitate. Like, you'll know that even though the ayahs are very similar, you'll know that this part, saying it with the ayah before will help, like, it helps you connect it so that you don't have to think about it.
So for my techniques, surprisingly is very similar to Isra's, except the only thing that's different between me and her is I would visualize the entire page in my mind as I read my Quran. I would connect each ayah before I recite it. So if I'm reciting an ayah, I would think of the next ayah as I'm reciting the previous ayah. So I would know what comes next. So that I would use. And then for similar ayahs, same as Isra's, I connect it with the previous ayah and I see the forward ayah and I see it's the same. It just comes easier to you the more you memorize and the more times you recite the surah.
So for tips on memorizing, let's say if you have a really big ayah, then break it up into smaller parts similar to what Isra and Jinan said, and then connect it together. And then the way I memorized was very similar to Isra and Jinan as well. I would read the ayah 10 times looking and then 10 times without looking and keep going until I got it. As for similar ayahs, we call them mutashabihas. For example, Surah Rahman, the only advice I have for that is just practice the surah over and over again. That's the way you can get through them.
Yeah, for mutashabih, it worked for me because I have some photographic memory, I guess you can say. So like I can visualize where the ayah starts and where the ayah ends. Like I can see oh, it's that long, it's that long. So in Surah Rahman, I can wherever I'm in, I can tell oh, it's a small ayah. So I can tell oh, it's this is this ayah, and the next one's a long ayah. So I can kind of tell when it ends. So that helps.
Brother, I was studying there are a lot of words repeats in Quran, many times. Samawati wal ardi, right? 700 times. So I was researching how many unique words we have in Quran. So they said roughly 7,000 words. So when I was going to the college at that time, I memorized 3,500 English words to get to the college, and I took 3 months of it. So 7,000 words doesn't look that big, right? So for everybody, who is not Arabic speaking, if you want to memorize the words, it's just only 7,000 words. So it should be easy. I'll make it easy.
So the brother was just making a comment that he did research and he found that there's 7,000 roughly average common words in the Quran. So if we memorize those 7,000 words, then you should be able to have good Quranic vocabulary. And he said that he took him 3 months, 2 months to memorize 3,000 English words.
3,000 English words.
English words,
so
yeah.
That is my sticking point there, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just asking me how many words you memorized for my book. You memorized 3,500 English words.
That's true.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
We need to ask
And that brings to another point is the Quran is in Arabic. And many of us that are non-Arabs or non-Arabic speaking, we feel that it's a barrier to entry. But this language is for all humanity. That's why it was revealed in Arabic. And subhanAllah, this is a miracle of the Quran by itself. This is a miracle. Anywhere you go around the world, you meet a Hafiz. They don't have to meet each other, but instantly they'll recite the Quran in Arabic. They don't have to meet, they never met ever. You could go to South America, Africa, Antarctica, if there's Muslims there, Allahu Alam. But if there's a Hafiza or even a person who recites the Qur'an, it's the same. It's the same. They never ever meet. Generations upon generations upon generations of Muslims across the world, they will never meet each other, but they still recite the same Qur'an. And Allah swears that Allah protects the Qur'an. So it's amazing. It's amazing that these children memorized it. May Allah reward the parents. I'm sorry, sisters. Does any sisters have any questions? I'll send one of the young boys here with the mic. Anyone? Raise your hand. I don't see any questions. Any else? Any other brother? Yeah.
So what did you study? Study or focus more on the normal school or the Quran?
The normal school or the Quran? Let me just clarify. Non-Quranic studies versus Quranic studies, basically. What was more emphasis on? So, like, how many hours a day did you spend on your Quran, and how many hours a day did you spend on your academic studies?
Since I started with Quran, like I started Hifz before academics, I mainly focused on. So I spent a lot of time on Quran. Mainly my whole day was Quran, but I spent like an hour here and there because my mom, she's a math teacher, so that helped me stay ahead in math. So because I was homeschooled, so that I didn't really need that much time in homeschooling, so I spent like an hour a day on homeschooling max. But I really spent time on Quran and stuff, and at the end of the year I just take the CAT test, which is just English and math, so I didn't really spend that much time. But now that going to public school, you spend more time on academics and less time on Quran, but you still review, you still have to review.
So for every Hifz student, they would have to give more time to Quranic studies, because you always have to practice and practice before you recite. So naturally you would have to spend more time on the Quran. But for me, I would spend more time on homeschool than Isra. I would spend 3.5 hours each day because my mom, she has this homeschool program for all the memorizing students. So since I would go to that, I would spend 3.5 hours of homeschool and the rest of my time in Quran.
As I mentioned before, when I was doing Hifz, I only did homeschooling on weekends, but it actually did not put me behind. When I started going to regular school in 7th grade, I was able to catch up pretty smoothly. So yes, when you're doing Hifz, when you're working on the Quran, you do spend more time on your Quranic studies and your academics, but that does not put you behind. Because when you're memorizing, as it was said before, your brain becomes sharper, right? So it's easier for you to understand and process and memorize things. So that really helped me in regular school, and it didn't put me behind that. I was only studying English and math on weekends.
I don't think I mentioned, but in Hifz, we used to spend like 7 hours at school. So in the morning from 7:30 until like 3:30 or 1:30, depending. And they used to also assign homework. So you used to have to go home and memorize a few lines or how much your homework is and review whatever they want you to recite for the next day. So it wasn't just memorizing, it wasn't just school and then coming home you have all time for academics. You have to do Quran at school, you have to do Quran at home, and you have to fit in academics on top of that. So obviously I spent more time on Quranic studies, but going to public school, that switches, but that doesn't make you feel behind.
I have a question. How much time do you spend on your screen? Smartphone, TV, computer, on a daily basis? I have to ask this question for all the Hafiza students, just for the other youth here, including myself.
Okay, in my defense, not every children uses their phone for reasons that's not academic. I use my phone for academic stuff sometimes, yes, and like, I do waste time on my phone, but as long as you can find that balance between studying Quran and screen time, it's okay.
When I was a child, I wasted so much time, just so much time. So my mom is way stricter with me these days, which I actually should appreciate more. So it used to be 2 episodes a day. Now it's 0, so yeah.
Well, one thing I have to say is in high school, most of your stuff is online. So because of that, I do spend a lot of time on my laptop doing my schoolwork. But when I was in HIFS, I had a 30-minute break in which I would watch one episode of TV, and then I wouldn't spend that much time on my iPad, just like what was needed. So not a lot of time on screen when I was in HIFS. Now there's more because high school is very demanding, especially on your assignments that are online.
I didn't forget about you. How much screen time do you have too?
I have only on weekends, like about. Alhamdulillah, my parents are really strict about that. So.
Exposed.
So about like maybe 1 hour max on weekends.
The reason I ask this question is it's actually a serious issue across the entire American society and Western society.
The whole world, you mean?
The whole world, subhanAllah. Actually, well, different parts of the world don't have internet and phones. Maybe they're blessed to be in that state, Allahu Alam. But it's a serious issue, the amount of screen time young people have. It's leading to a record amount of mental health issues, loneliness, people, health issues, physical health issues. So it's very good that the parents of these children here have control the amount of screen time they have. I mean, I myself, I'm a software engineer, so I work on the screen. So it's bad because all day I'm on the screen, and all of a sudden I come home, I watch news. So it's very bad, even for adults. So we should try to disconnect and reconnect with Allah, disconnect and reconnect with our family, and disconnect and reconnect with the Qur'an and our community, inshallah. So I believe there's no more questions. We'll end at that.